So I'm here. Here at Barceloneta, the main beach in Barcelona. As you can see, that is the extent of the beach on both sides. And right here is the beach. And I always wanted to make a video of how I managed to travel. Especially with people always want to know, like, how do you bring your gear from here to there? How do you like move? And I've never been a huge fan of having a lot of material possessions. That being said, I do own land in a foreign country, but this can be just having a lot of possessions. In my opinion, this can be sometimes much of a hindrance because like you constantly have to watch over them, to take care of them. There's a very famous quote one of my favorite movies called Fight Club that says things you own end up owning you. So I always try to cleanse myself as far as like material possessions. I always try to not have a lot. That being said, when you travel, you do have to have something because if not, you're gonna be like naked and everybody's gonna make fun of you. That's not gonna be appropriate. So this is just basically the bare essentials. When I travel, I still could get rid of a lot of stuff. And just going back to my travels in South America, I remember a famous backpacker that wrote a blog on how he was traveling with just a small day pack. And in my case, that's not possible because I have to sleep outside, so I have to carry sleeping gear. But this is just in my opinion, the best way to traveling is a three-tier process. It's the essentials, the semi-essentials, and the non-essentials. So obviously the essentials are the type of possessions that if you lose them while you're traveling, you end up having to spend months and probably months, not more than months, just trying to replace everything, replacing your passport, replacing your debit card that is not having money, replacing all the data that the smartphone is very replaceable, but all the important documents that you have in your smartphone and like the way it's done. So these are the essentials. So the essentials usually go in a tiny thing, I call this a money belt like this. So unfortunately I have ADHD. So because I have ADHD, I always have to do drills and practices to make sure that I don't lose it. I was in Texas and I was always carrying all my gear, and all of a sudden I left it somewhere, and then I got into a bus and then I lost it, and I had spent like one more month just replacing everything. So I'm always doing drills of how did I replace it and always have it on me, and I always sleep with it. It's actually very convenient. So you have like debit cards, you have your IDs, you have your passport. I guess like your passport is probably the most important thing, and the second most important thing is your money. Also, you should always wear it inside and not expose it. As I'm right now not wearing it in the right place. Like obviously Spain is a lot safer, but when you're in like very poor developing countries, there's a lot of people who like to steal from you. So you never should have it exposed. You should always have it inside. The second tier, and this is why I carry this smaller backpack, is to I usually kept my camera, and in this case my laptop, in it. And it just makes, like, if something happens, you always can have everything in your first tier and your second tier of safety, and then that way, like, you're always watching it, so everything else can be a lot easier more disposable, much more easier to lose. and then we go to the third tier. So the third tier is basically a lot of the clothes. Like, look, I only carry one pair of shoes, the ones I have, and then one pair of sandals. Then I have like a couple of nice shirts. I mean, realistically, I could only wear one, and this is just when you have to go to a bank or something like that, and or just have a meeting or go to dinner. You have to have one pair of boxers and underwear. I usually have only two underwears, and then I have three shorts, one pant, and usually I usually have like this shirts, which they used to be t-shirts, but this this is something I learned in Brooklyn. When I was in Brooklyn, I was kind of molested sometimes in the streets, so I just started weightlifting a lot. This is in Washington D.C. and Brooklyn because I spent a lot of time in the streets. And I have big arms, so if you kind of show off your arms, you get less harassed by thieves or somebody who wants to do whatever. So that's why one of the reasons I wear this cut off shirts. I guess this is something that is also very important. This is like a sweater. This is just in case it's cold or you hike up out the mountain. This is actually very, very useful, the sweater, because sometimes like there are unexpected changes of weather. And the sweater, usually I can use it as a pad to sleep. And then I have this is actually a cover that a homeless Romanian guy. People here in Europe are usually. I found Europeans to be very generous, and this is just maybe it's a biased opinion. Maybe I haven't seen a lot, but I just have met a couple of homeless people, and they always had something to give me. And this is like homeless people, and I mean, there's usually camaraderie around the homeless community of the world, but this is unspoken of because it was just a lot of gear all of a sudden. Deodorant, toothbrush and toothpaste, laptop charger, glasses, scissors to cut my beard, and then razors, then a diary to write everything down. I always carry some sort of food in case I have like last minute cravings. This is just because I'm constantly doing exercise, and I'm constantly trying to feed my body to make sure that like my fitness levels are to a certain extent. I always try never to starve, even though it's like sometimes not the best food. This is another video I wanted to do about fitness. And then the famous water bottle. So always having a water bottle when you're traveling is something extremely useful. Here in Spain, there are a lot of fountains where you can get water. So this is good. And if you don't have water, you get used to constantly have to buy water out in the streets, like buy soda or buy something else, and then you spend all this money just on drinks that could be avoided just by carrying water, because then you instantly make a connection between water and then drinking it, and then you constantly have it. So water, it's a semi-essential, almost an essential. And then the laptop. With the laptops, like it's something that's very easily stolen or replaced when you're traveling or broken apart. In this case, In this case, as you can see, it already broke. This is probably because like I carry it in my backpack, so when I put it in my backpack, it fell apart. So the laptop is really not as essential. Like you can do most of the errands that you can do on the smartphone, and usually there's a lot of cyber in South America. They call it cyber cafes. Here in Europe, here in Spain, they call it locutorio. So you can use your internet connection there. But here in Europe, they're very expensive. So either you use your smartphone or you carry a laptop if you want a wider screen, which is better for your brain. And the other huge advantage about having the laptop is that because there's so many online gigs, you can become a digital nomad. And this is something that because I love to travel, I was looking into a lot of digital nomad gigs in order to travel and carry a laptop. But this really hasn't worked the way I wanted, even though I've tried it. And then again, when you're traveling, many times there's a lot of things against digital nomad that there's a lot of positives and negatives about being a digital nomad. One of the negative things is like you're removed a lot from the whole experience of traveling, which is interacting with the culture. So sometimes just taking a job, doing whatever, even though it doesn't pay as well as a digital nomad, it's, I think in my opinion, a much better cultural immersion experience than being a digital nomad. That being said, it's a good way to just get a lot of what you're worth when you're traveling. I'm gonna show you a video of everything packed in my backpack so you have a frame of comparison.